What's up everybody, Landon with LateModelRestoration.com. Today I'm going to be checking out and installing BBK ceramic coated long tube headers and X-Pipe for the 2005 to 2010 Mustang GT. Since 1988, BBK has dedicated itself to designing and building cutting-edge, high-performance parts and accessories for the Mustang. BBK is known for offering unmatched value and quality, all while maintaining an OEM fit and finish. Each BBK full-length header system is CAD designed and manufactured with 1 5/8 inch CNC mandrel-bent tubing for non-restrictive airflow. All BBK exhaust headers are pressure tested to ensure a leak-free performance. The BBK full-length headers are available in either a chrome or ceramic coated finish and a high-quality 304 stainless steel construction. They are made right here in the USA and will include all gaskets, hardware, and O2 extensions. When making the move to the BBK full-length headers, you'll need to swap the mid-pipe for BBK's off-road or catalytic X-Pipe. Both X-Pipes will bolt directly to your new BBK headers, as well as the factory catback or an aftermarket catback that has the factory-style connections. Its 2 3/4 inch mandrel-bent tubing will allow for a more free-flowing exhaust system, resulting in more power. Like the headers, each X-Pipe is made in the USA and will include all needed hardware for installation. Prior to installation of the BBK full-length headers, we decided to go with the off-road X-Pipe. It is recommended that you purchase a SCT X4 tuner to further maximize your performance gains and have the ability to turn off the rear O2 sensors. All off-road mid-pipes do not have catalytic converters and are manufactured and represented only for off-road use. Before we tackle this installation, let's strap this 07 GT to our dyno and see what it lays down in stock trim. The only performance modifications to this Mustang is BBK's Varitune axle backs and MSD coil packs. For our baseline numbers, the car made 273 horsepower and 296 foot-pounds of torque. Now let's get the car in the air and show you how to install the BBK full-length headers and X-Pipe. Then we'll get the car back on the dyno and see how much power we were able to pick up. To begin installation, start by placing the car on a lift or jack and jack stands, allowing for plenty of work room. Remove the positive and negative battery cables with the 8mm socket. Next, remove the battery hold-down bolt with the 8mm socket, then remove the battery from the tray. Loosen the 3 8mm bolts, then remove the battery tray from the car. With the battery tray out of the car, take this time to disconnect the passenger side top O2 sensor. On the driver's side, disconnect the vapor tube from the evap canister purge valve. Then slide the evap canister purge valve off the strut tower and position it out of your way. Loosen the dipstick bolt with the 8mm socket and then carefully remove the dipstick from the car. Loosen the 10mm airbox bolt. Disconnect the mass airflow sensor and vacuum line on the intake elbow. Then loosen the hose clamp holding the intake elbow to the throttle body and then remove the air intake assembly from the car. Loosen all the upper header bolts on the driver and passenger side. Keep in mind, some nuts will come off with the stud still attached. Now, remove the top motor mount nuts with a 15mm socket. With a small ratchet wrench and a 13mm socket, loosen the top steering shaft bolt. Moving underneath the car, remove the 4 control arm support brace nuts with the 13mm socket and then remove the brace from the car. Disconnect the rear O2 sensors. Spray quality penetrating oil on the factory mid-pipe to manifold nuts. Then loosen the nuts with a few extensions and a 13mm socket. Loosen the mid-pipe to tailpipe exhaust sleeves with a 15mm socket. Pry the small tab up with the flathead screwdriver and slide the sleeve backwards. Use a rubber mallet if needed to separate the mid-pipe and tailpipes. Now, remove the factory mid-pipe from the car. Remove the 3 starter bolts with a 10mm socket. A few extensions and a swivel socket will come in handy. Carefully remove the starter from the bell housing. Remove the solenoid cover and loosen the 2 nuts with a 13mm and 10mm socket. Now you can remove the starter from the car. Remove the lower steering shaft bolt with a 13mm socket and then mark the shaft's orientation. Next, remove the steering shaft from the car. Raise the engine until it clears the motor mount stud by jacking up on the front of the oil pan near the crank pulley. With a 13mm socket and breaker bar, loosen the 4 driver's side motor mount bolts. Do the same for the passenger side, except the front bolt will have a 13mm nut and a 15mm bolt holding down a ground wire. Remove both motor mounts from the car. Disconnect the driver's side front O2 sensor. Loosen the 4 lower exhaust manifold nuts with a 13mm socket. Then you can remove the manifold from the car. Don't forget to remove the factory metal gaskets, but be careful since these can be sharp. Do the same for the passenger side. Next, connect the 2 included front O2 sensor extensions. On the driver's side, if the lower cylinder number 7 stud stayed attached, remove it with a 5mm socket. This stud has to be removed because it will come in contact with one of the header primaries, causing the header not to fit. Install the included gaskets and then position the driver's side header onto any studs that remain in the cylinder head. Loosely tighten the factory nuts and then install the included hardware into any open holes in the cylinder head. Moving to the passenger side, make sure the top stud on cylinder number 3 is removed. One of the included bolts will need to be modified later. Position the header over any of the remaining factory studs and loosely tighten the nuts. Then install the included hardware into any of the remaining holes in the cylinder head. Now, torque the bolts you can access to 18.5 foot-pounds on both the driver's side and passenger side. Reinstall your motor mounts and then lower the engine. Reinstall your steering shaft and starter. Grab your driver's side exhaust manifold and then remove the front O2 sensor with a 7/8 open-end wrench. Do the same for the other 3 O2 sensors on the factory mid-pipe. Position the X-pipe into place and install the previously removed O2 sensors. Thread the included studs into the long tube header collector and then tighten the nuts with a 21mm socket. Reposition your tailpipes with the X-pipe and tighten the exhaust sleeves. File down the small tabs on the front O2 sensors and then connect them to the extensions. Connect the rear O2 extensions and then zip tie all of your connections and wires away from the exhaust. Moving to the top of the car, install any factory nuts or included bolts and torque to 18.5 foot-pounds on the driver and passenger side. On the passenger side header, you will need to mark the threads on one of the included bolts. You will then cut at the mark, file down any rough areas, and torque to spec. After that, reinstall all of your components that you removed in the engine bay, give everything a good once-over, and you're all done. Alright guys, we just wrapped up the install of our BBK full-length headers and X-pipe. But before we made our dyno pull, we flashed the PCM with the SCT Strategy Tune via an X4 tuner. The preloaded Strategy Tune for BBK long tube headers will help optimize the car's performance, allowing for better drivability and power. We were also able to turn off the rear O2 sensors since the X-pipe does not have catalytic converters. There's only one thing left to do. Let's turn the rollers and see if we were able to squeeze out some more power from this 3-valve. Well guys, we definitely picked up some power and the car sounds pretty nasty. It laid down 295 horsepower and 319 foot-pounds of torque, which equates to an improvement of 22 horsepower and 23 foot-pounds of torque. The BBK full-length headers and off-road X-pipe was a pretty straightforward install. Installation should take you around 6 hours to complete if you don't run into any issues. For more helpful and in-depth how-tos, go ahead and click the link below or in the video description to subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already done so. And of course, you can pick up your BBK full-length headers and X-pipe from LateModelRestoration.com.